Hi everyone, and welcome back to Men of the Infinite, your dedicated wisdom channel, and to this three-part series entitled, What is the Infinite? It's only by examining the nature of the totality that we can begin to understand reality as a whole. This in turn will enable us to resolve age-old questions concerning the origins of the universe, the existence of God, and the meaning of life. More importantly, it will further the reorientation process by which the mind leaves behind its core delusions and begins to face the true nature of reality. In order to properly understand the totality, the student has to learn how to think non-dualistically. Now, by this, I don't mean he has to cease using dualistic concepts altogether and enter a kind of non-dualistic realm, which is impossible for the human mind to do in any case. Rather, he has to learn how to stop seeking the truth within a dualistic framework, and instead skillfully manipulate dualistic concepts in a manner that generates a proper understanding of non-duality. In my experience, this is a very rare skill indeed. The main problem is that most people have a strong vested interest in a particular dualistic belief. An obvious example is the Christian concept of God. Christians generally conceive of God as other, that is, as something separate from their own selves. They like to create this duality because A, it enables them to preserve the illusion of their own egos, and B, it enables them to think of God in an emotional manner. They can conceive of him as a kind of comfortable and secure presence in which their egos can find refuge. Any attempt to think non-dualistically would only undermine this dynamic. In effect, the Christian would have to dismantle his entire worldview, which is unlikely to happen, especially if he spent many years establishing a lifestyle and an identity around it. But Christians are not the only ones at fault. Nearly all religious people are culpable, as too are most atheists and agnostics. The average atheist and agnostic is often just as rigid and content in his worldview as the Christian is. Instead of worshipping God, he worships something just as unreal, scientific truth. The leading scientists have become his high priests. The scientific journals and books have become his Bible. Scientific materialism has become his religion. Like a devoted disciple, he regurgitates the words of the high priests and chants the mantras of scientific materialism. Ultimate truth is unknowable. Everything is uncertain. Scientific knowledge is the only valid knowledge there is. Matter is the final reality. And they do so as if these were the gospel truth. He himself has no idea whether these things are actually true. He simply takes them on faith. They've become the tenets of his new religion. And yet, just to compound the madness, he loves nothing better than to turn around and laugh at the Christians for being mindless sheep. For the average atheist or agnostic, it's enough to reject the irrationality of supernatural religion. That's all that really matters to him. It's the extent of his drive towards truth. As long as he can contrast himself with the religious lunatics he sees around him and pretend that he's a rational human being, he is content. To push reason any further than this would be for him a sign of madness. Thus he shrinks away from the realm of higher reasoning in the same way that a fundamentalist Christian shrinks away from the theories of science. I want to stress that in order to understand the wisdom of the infinite, the student needs to learn how to go beyond both the religious and the atheistic mindset. Both mindsets are locked within a limited branch of duality and need to be transcended. The belief in God and the belief in scientific materialism spring from the same well of egotism. And although the theist and the atheist love to castigate each other for their foolishness, in reality they are both as foolish as each other. The main problem is that they are both equally spellbound by the delusion of objective existence. They believe that there really is a permanent physical world out there, one that is unceasingly solid and multidimensional, a kind of unchanging, spacious realm in which everything exists as a solid object, including ourselves and our minds. They don't see that the physical world is never anything more than a creation of the moment, a kind of momentary appearance that ultimately has no more substance than a dream. As a result, they remain blind to the true nature of the world. The person who is spellbound by the delusion of objective existence instinctively believes that ultimate truth must reside in a created thing of some sort, whether it be a physical event such as the Big Bang or a quantum fluctuation, or abstractly in a mathematical formula, or a set of equations, or in a religious entity such as God, or else he rejects the possibility of there being any created entity which can house the ultimate truth, and thus rejects the concept of ultimate truth altogether. All of these cases involve the delusion of thinking that ultimate truth is to be found in an objective entity of some kind. If you want to become enlightened and comprehend the infinite, you need to learn how to transcend this kind of thinking. The infinite is a term that refers to the totality of all there is. It's not a mathematical concept, but a philosophical one. It's a concept that embraces everything there can possibly be. There is not a single thing in existence which is not part of the infinite. It is literally everything, including ourselves. And since there is nothing else beyond the infinite, it constitutes ultimate reality. Sometimes I call it the Tao, at other times I call it God. It's important to realize that since the infinite comprises the totality of all there is, it is not anything in particular. It is not a specific object or event of some kind. It's not a person or a being or a consciousness or a force or a spiritual essence. It lacks all form whatsoever, even the form of nothingness. We cannot point to it or isolate it from the rest of existence and say, there it is. And yet there is never a time when we are not perceiving and experiencing it. It stands right before our eyes in all its glory in each and every moment of our lives. Although the infinite is not any particular thing, neither is it separate or distinct from the things of this world in any way. As an analogy, consider a lake of pure distilled water, which is comprised solely of water molecules. It's easy to see that a particular water molecule within the lake and the lake itself are two completely different things. And yet at the same time, there is no lake over and above the water molecules which form its body. Similarly, there is no infinite over and above the finite objects which comprise it. The things we see around us are literally the infinite. There is no hidden mystical realm that we have to seek. We only have to learn how to open our eyes and see what is already there. In Part 2, the illusion of separation.